Scott here again on Flip That Script to talk to you a little bit about some things related to you going no contact. You kind of call it the immediate and then a little further down the line. Impact that it has, and I'm not talking about the positive impact that it has on you, that it's giving you space for healing, that you've started to look out what's in your best interest when it comes to your peace and your well-being. But I'm more talking about the fact that doing this, as well as if you decide to expose them, which I'll get into in a separate video, that confronting them, and or more especially going no contact, causes what they call a narcissistic injury to your abusive family member or family members. A narcissistic injury kind of means that even if it's just very briefly, it kind of bruises their ego, and maybe very briefly exposes themselves to themselves. I guess if we can put it that way, but of course, as I went to in previous videos, and you can learn the same thing about narcissists and toxic people from many, many resources these days, that they avoid self-reflection. But even just that brief exposure, and where they might have to experience themselves, however briefly they allow it to happen, that maybe they're not so perfect, and that they're flawed, and that they've done things that have caused you to have to break contact with them. Just overall, it's considered to be a narcissistic injury that is experienced by toxic, narcissistic, abusive people, including family members, when their target or their scapegoat goes no contact. What will inevitably ensue, and also you should take as confirmation of the fact that they're toxic and abusive and narcissistic, is the smear campaign. The smear campaign basically means that they're going to badmouth you to others, bend anybody's ear that they can, and do their best to portray either what you communicated when you stood up to them, and or if they share that you've severed ties with them and gone no contact, they're going to portray that as reflecting on you, and that something's wrong with you. The smear campaign is absolutely 1000% textbook predictable, whether you get wind of it or not. Now, even if you've also, as I recommend, blocked every form of communication, you still may hear and get inklings of the smear campaign that's going on just through anybody that might know you and your toxic family members, that knows all of you, or at least one or more of your abusers as well as you. You may be told about what's going on. Now, they talk about people being flying monkeys when it comes to the whole phenomenon of toxic people with toxic family members and emotional narcissistic abuse and people making the radical decision to go no contact. People who, your toxic family members who you went no contact with, may attempt to employ, quote unquote, not for money, but just use, utilize, employ as some kind of go-betweens between you and them to maybe kind of try to get you to have a change of heart, to try to guilt trip you, or to tell you that you're overreacting, or why don't you try to reconcile, are called flying monkeys. The term kind of came from the flying monkeys in the movie The Wizard of Oz, and the term came about because of your toxic, abusive, narcissistic family members basically trying to get someone else's to do their bidding in terms of trying to communicate with you and or influence you during a time that you've made the radical decision that enough is enough, and that you're creating a safe space for yourself, perhaps for the rest of your life. Another phenomenon that you may experience is called hoovering. Hoovering also is a coined term that came from the Hoover vacuum cleaner, meaning they're going to attempt to suck you back in to the dynamic. Hoovering could include attempts by your toxic, narcissistic, abusive family members who you went no contact with to attempt to get in contact with you. People can be creative. They might try to show up at your work or places that they know that you frequent. They might show up at your place of employment. So these are things that it would not be unlikely for you to experience, even if you have blocked them on your phone from texting, social media, and email. I've also heard of hoovering going on and it being quite common, with them setting up new accounts on social media platforms and attempting to message you or contact you or connect with you that way. The thing that I most strongly advise, you've already been strong enough to go no contact, is that regardless of whether you're going to decide to expose the abuse to other people, the important thing is that you work very hard to rise above the smear campaign. Anyone that you feel might be a flying monkey who would be reporting back to your toxic family members that you've gone no contact with, keep clear boundaries. Don't emotionally react. Say something simple like, "This is a personal decision I've made," or, "I don't owe you an explanation. I'm not talking about this," etc. Or, "I already communicated the reasons why, and this is a final decision." Keep it simple, factual, and do not react to these attempts. Again, the main thing I wanted to emphasize to you is that all of these things are kind of par for the course. And the thing that maybe you should keep in mind is that because all of these phenomenon that I just described and mentioned are very textbook, predictable, and well documented responses in the aftermath of having made the difficult decision to go no contact, again, why don't you look at it as your confirmation that they are indeed toxic, because these are all toxic behaviors. This is not a sign that they do want to change or that things will be better in the future if you reconnect. Another phenomenon, one last one, that relates to all this, which I think may happen with toxic family also when you go no contact, although it's much more talked about in intimate romantic relationships, is something that they call future faking. Future faking could be accompanied by a fake, insincere apology, the kind of apology that still goes along the lines of the way that toxic people, quote unquote, apologize, which means not being accountable, saying they're sorry that you feel that way, or I'm sorry, I know you're so sensitive, I should be more careful about what I say, rather than actually fully saying that they know they were wrong and that they hope that you'll forgive them, and a real, true apology, which, and a healthy apology, should reflect taking responsibility and accountability and not blaming you as being overreactive or unreasonable, etc. So that's also something else not only to watch out for, but as much as you might have wanted to have a good and healthy relationship with toxic family members, please don't fall for it. Please don't fall for it, because it never should have gotten to this point to begin with. And remember that they've already shown you who they are. It's a really hard thing, but these, again, are the very textbook kind of things you can expect to become aware of or become privy to or become more tangentially aware of through the grapevine after you decide that enough is enough and you've made a firm and difficult decision to go no contact.